Okay, so in this one, we're going to be targeting the entire spine. I call this prone lift series salad because it's really just like a mixture of things, but we're going from the top of the spine to the bottom of the spine and flexing and extending at each articulation. Not specifically every single joint in the spine, but all of the important ones. So we're going to start with the upper cervical spine, upper cervical tilts, then lower cervical tilts, where the cervical spine sort of meets the thoracic spine, then thoracic spine, then where the thoracic spine meets the lumbar spine, then just the lumbar spine. And I know that it might look like some of these are very similar to each other, but again, the intent of these matters. If you're thinking about the part of the body that we're targeting, then it's more likely than that part of the body is the part that's going to be doing the work, right? So imagining the work occurring in a certain place will change the way that the movement occurs and how that affects you and how that flows into everything you do outside of these videos that you do. So you're going to start with your hands right underneath your face, and your hips are planted, and you're going to push the tops of your hips in the floor just a little bit, so like a 20-30% butt squeeze. From here, we're going to be targeting the top of the cervical spine, so where the skull sits on the first bone of the cervical spine, which is called the atlas. So from here, you're going to think about this area right here, and all you're going to do is just lift the head as much as you can and try to almost touch the back of your upper shoulders or your upper neck, and then tuck the chin as much as you can. And as you're doing this, your palms are pushing gently into the floor. Think about that area, visualize it. Imagine the skull sitting on top of the atlas. And you're going to do 6 to 8 in each little tilt. So we're going to keep going. One more. And then on this one, on the next one, I want you to think about where the cervical spine meets the T-spine. There are 7 vertebral units in your cervical spine. So imagine 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right around here, right? So imagine that that's the area that we're looking for. So we have to make a bigger and more global movement. Reach the chin down to the chest. Reach the neck and the head back behind you, as if you're trying to reach your head out of your imaginary turtle shell. A weird thought, but it helps. So you see how I'm moving more of my neck here? That's what we're looking for. We don't really do neck stuff very often. We don't think about our neck much. Only if we have pain there do we think about it more. And then we're too aware. We're hyper aware. Keep going. Gentle push into the floor with the hands, but that's not really what it's about. It's more about the spine and the neck. Let's do 2 more. Okay. Now we're going to think about the cervical spine. Oh my God, the thoracic spine only. Now the thoracic spine is big. The thoracic spine has 12 movable units. So that directly correlates with how many pairs of ribs you have. You have 12 pairs of ribs. So each thoracic spine, each thoracic unit is associated with a set of ribs. That's how it works. The ribs reach back into the spine and they attach into these little facets, these little plugs, I guess the best way I can put it, where the ribs meet the rib cage, where the ribs meet the spine. So we're thinking about that entire area, which is pretty much this to this, right? So Bring your arms out to the side, push the hips into the floor, lift that entire area with the arms. So it's kind of like a Superman, but again, the intent is different. We're trying to lift as high as we can and then coming back down. You should feel like all the muscles of your back are doing quite a bit of the work. You should feel quite a bit of a contraction in the middle of the spine. We're trying to compress that area on purpose. Two more. Okay. Now, we're going to think about the lumbar spine and where the lumbar spine meets the thoracic spine. So T12, the 12th bone in the spine, in the thoracic spine, and the first bone in the lumbar spine. So really it's just 7 bones in the neck, 12 bones in the middle of the spine, 7 at the bottom. So we're going to think about where the 12th meets the first of the lumbar, which is around, pretty much like around here, more or less. We're going to think about kind of tilting from there and that being the hinge point, right? So when you're doing a deadlift, what's the hinge point? The hips. Think about that, but in the back, in this area, right? So from here, hands out to the side. It's going to look similar to the previous one, but again, like I said, the intent is a little bit different. Think about that area, visualize the area, imagine that particular area doing the work. And I want your hands to stay on the floor here. I want you to really think about, and my bell's ringing, someone's at the door. I want you to think about that particular area compressing.